Good evening, and welcome to the Palace of Auburn Hills, home of the two-time NBA World Champion Detroit Pistons. And this year, home to the 1993 NBA Draft. Also, welcome to those gathered at our team headquarters across the country and to our national audience on TNT and NBA radio. To all of you, thank you for being with us. The NBA team representatives have been briefed on the draft procedures. Everybody in the building knows what's going on, and our broadcasters will brief our fans. So let's get started. The first pick in the 1993 NBA Draft will be made by the Orlando Magic, who have 5 minutes to make their selection.
Every draft, NBA teams search for that one impact player. In 1978, the Boston Celtics took a chance on the hick from French Lick. Larry Joe Bird would erase all doubts on his way to 3 NBA championships and a spot in the Hall of Fame. In 1979, Earvin Magic Johnson was selected #1, bringing Showtime to the league. The 6'9" point guard led the Lakers to 5 titles, and his smile left Hollywood starstruck. Michael Jordan entered the NBA in 1984, taking the league by storm. His game has elevated the Bulls to 3 straight NBA championships and earned him the title as the best ever. Last year, Shaquille O'Neal made an instant impact. Unstoppable at times, he was Rookie of the Year. This year's crop is rich in talent, the likes of Fab Five star Chris Webber and Sean Bradley, whose next mission will be the NBA. Jamal Mashburn is looking to wreak havoc on the league's defenses. Will Anthony Hardaway shine on the court like he has on the big screen? And UNLV's J.R. Rider, who could be the draft's most talented prospect. Which one of these players will be the NBA's next impact performer? Fans have gathered at the Palace in Auburn, Michigan for the draft of 1993. 54 players will be selected in the 2-round draft. The potential first-rounders, about 15 of them, are gathered here in the green room with their friends and their families, waiting to achieve instant celebrity status and, for some of them, instant millionaire status. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Neal, and welcome back for the TNT coverage of the 1993 NBA Draft. Now, there's been a lot of talk, particularly among the top teams picking in the draft, of trades, of movement, of how they're going to pay the players, and a lot of activity has been going on. Nothing definitive has happened yet that we can announce in terms of how those draft choices are going to go. But there is NBA news happening today. One of the more surprising stories happened this afternoon in Orlando. Head coach Matty Gukas moved upstairs into the executive offices, and assistant Brian Hill took over as head coach for the Orlando Magic, the team that has the #1 pick here in the 1993 draft. Also, one trade happened today. Utah obtains Felton Spencer for Mike Brown, who'll go to Minnesota and the Timberwolves. And with me, as usual, my sidekicks, Doug Collins and Hubie Brown, 2 outstanding analysts, and before that, Doug, a player, Hubie, an outstanding coach in the ABA and the NBA. And Doug, we talk about the trade there with Minnesota. There's also some talk of some shuffling right up at the top of the draft.
Well, the trade deadline, Bob, was at 2 p.m. Eastern time, so no trades can be announced at this point in time until the trades have been or until the draft choices have been made. Orlando, Golden State continuing discussions. One going to Golden State. They're hoping to get Sean Bradley. Orlando getting Anthony Hardaway, so we'll have to wait to see if that comes about tonight. Other than that, I think you look at the top 10 picks, you can pretty well slot them where they're going to be. Then from 11 on down, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
You got that right. Hubie Brown.
Well, Bob, I think all drafts are good drafts. Some players make an impact immediately, others it might take 2 or 3 years. The other factor, remember, at 12:01 a.m., July 1st, this evening, 53 unrestricted free agents hit the open market. And that means that teams could pick up a solid, proven professional.
So 54 players will be picked here tonight. 53 restricted and unrestricted restricted free agents will be out there too. A lot of opportunity for player movement.
With the first pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Chris Webber from the University of Michigan.
Celebration begins for the 20-year-old sophomore. He played 2 years at the University of Michigan. Consensus All-American. And of course, we are in the Palace in Detroit. Chris Webber played at Country Day High School in suburban Birmingham, Michigan. A lot of his high school teammates, his childhood friends, are here in the Palace tonight to enjoy this big moment for the young man from Amazing Blue. Chris Webber talking to Bobby Hurley, said to be a surefire top 10 pick.
Yeah, I got it. Just like you said.
The crowd will get loud again now as Webber enters the arena. Chris Webber is 6'9", up to about 250 or 60 pounds now. 263 is weight when he was measured. The first player in history on the NCAA All-Tournament team as a freshman and a sophomore. It said it all about how far that Fab Five and Chris Webber took the University of Michigan. And Doug Collins, he has a great inside game, maybe not fully developed yet.
Well, great hands, Bob. When you look at him, he catches the ball so well. Look at him on the run, put down the dunk. Powerful rebounder. As he gets in better shape, he's going to run the floor well. Excellent rebounder. Should be an all-star in this league. He's going to have to work on his low post moves. And the one thing, Hubie, that we talked about a little bit is his free throw shooting, but he is a tremendous talent.
You're talking the presence is the key package here. You're talking brute strength. He's going to have to get on the foul line and shoot better than 55%. Otherwise, we're going to have two guys who can be fouled every night, Shaquille O'Neal and Webber, and we're liable to have a lot of rebounding, offensive board play. But it's two guys who, with their back to the basket, will develop, and you're going to see major input by them to develop better low post games and a more productive foul line situation.
Let's meet Chris Webber. Craig Sager will be interviewing most of our top draft choices, and Craig is with Chris right now. Craig.
Well, in 2 years, you've gone from a Michigan State high school championship to the #1 pick in the draft. Those sights were amazing with you and your family and teammates. What are your thoughts now about going to Orlando, and what can the Magic expect?
Well, first, I'm just happy to be the #1 pick. There's no guarantee I'm going to get to go to Orlando. A lot of things could still happen. I'm just happy, I just thank God for blessing me. God gave me the talent. He gave me the ability. And when people doubted me, God still was on my side. So I'm just happy everything worked out okay.
If you stay with Orlando, playing with the Shaq, what are your thoughts about lining up against Shaquille O'Neal?
I feel everything will work out good. I'm just hopeful that we can click and work together. I'm sure we will if that's the situation. I love to play with him, and I know he wants to play with me.
What about the money situation? Are you concerned that they'll have enough money to pay for your services?
I'm not sure. I think if that was that big of a problem, they would have traded the pick or something like that. Hopefully we can work things out and just get moving forward.
Well, congratulations. The clock worked in your favor this time.
Oh, yeah, it definitely did. Thank God.
Okay, thanks a lot. Congratulations. Back to you, Bob.
Greg, thank you very much. You know, there's been a great deal of speculation as to whether or not Weber would, in fact, go to Orlando the last couple of days. Everything from Anthony Hardaway going all the way up to Orlando to Sean Bradley going there and having a twin towers of Bradley and Shaquille O'Neal, and now talk between Orlando and Golden State about some kind of trade. That could still be in the works. And I might mention to you, as we're early in the draft here, there's 5 minutes between each selection in the first round, 2 minutes between each selection in the second round, and any trades that happen, the trades can be made after the draft starts, but they cannot be announced until after the second selection is made. So if there was one between Orlando and number 3 Golden State, it wouldn't be announced until after Golden State makes a selection. So Chris Webber, the sophomore from the University of Michigan at 6'9", 263 pounds, has been selected by the Orlando Magic. And Doug and Hubie, one thing we've talked about with everybody around here in Detroit the last couple of days, the salary cap problem. Can a team that's said to be $4 million over the cap, Orlando, sign a player in the price range of a number 1 draft choice?
Bob, it's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to restructure a number of contracts, but they also had to do that to sign Shaquille O'Neal. So when you restructure contracts, yes, you can get it on the front end, but it's going to cost you later. And what you end up doing is you tie yourself into those guys that you restructure their contracts really to playing their career in your city. So that's going to have to happen, and there could be a good chance to sign him. They're going to have to get rid of 2 or 3 players to free up some money. So Orlando's team could take a totally different shape by adding Weber. You might have to get rid of 2 or 3 players just to be able to sign him.
And Hubie, a brand new coach, Brian Hill, who had been an assistant at Atlanta several years ago. Brian Hill now an assistant at Orlando, becomes the new head man replacing Matty Gukas. You have those changes to deal with.
You know, see, Bryant's coming into a great situation. All of a sudden, now you have 2 of the most powerful young players in basketball at center and big forward. Then you have Scott for the perimeter game, Anderson in the backcourt, Scott Skiles. You're coming off a team that was 41 and 41 last year, and the only questionable position you had was big forward, only because Brian Williams missed 61 games due to his physical problems. Now, if they straighten all of this out and he comes back healthy, this becomes a very, very talented club. And I think that Brian Hill and his new staff will take their chances with this ball club. All right.
I think I would, I know. Now, coming up next, we have Philadelphia with the 2nd pick. Of course, Freddie Carter heading into his first full year as the head coach in Philadelphia. They have said earlier that they will take Sean Bradley, and that's what everybody is speculating at this point, unless Orlando did. And since they went with Weber, that's what we're expecting Philadelphia to do. Philadelphia, a team that really struggled last year with only 26 wins. So the 76ers hoping to get well somewhere or other. And the commissioner of the NBA, David Stern, who will be announcing all the selections, by the way, is ready to make the announcement for the Philadelphia 76ers.
With the 2nd pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Sean Bradley from Brigham Young University.
Good stuff, right?
Very clean-cut young man who spent the last 2 years in Australia on a church mission for the Mormon Church. Last played at BYU in 1990-91. He is from the small town of Castle Dale, Utah. Just over 1,000 population. He went to Emory County High School.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right.
Congratulations, Sean.
Hey, thanks, man. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Sean Bradley dons the cap of the Philadelphia 76ers. And sitting beside me, I know, taking a look at this, Doug Collins, you were the 1973 first-round draft choice in the 76ers.
Yes, and this is a young man that they can build a new team around. When you look at their team right now, you talk about Clarence Weatherspoon last year as a power player. You talk about Jeff Hornacek, Percy Hawkins, Johnny Dawkins. They have perimeter players. The most important thing, Bob, is to be patient with this young guy. You can see him with the commissioner. He's about 40 pounds heavier than when he checked into college. He checked in at 205. He's about 248 And when you look at the highlights, this is a young man that can run and catch the ball and has moves. It's just he's going to have to get bigger and stronger.
To give an idea, David Stern is about 5'9", to show you the difference in height.
When you watch him play, he has a game with his back to the basket. He can hit the jump shots, the shot blocking. You say, well, 5 a game as a freshman, that's not so many. Well, in '91, that led the NCAA. He's blessed. He can really run. He has great eye and hand coordination. You can't bat over 400 in high school baseball unless you have that. Plus, he's an excellent golfer. He loves the water ski. He's a very well-rounded individual. You know he's going to work hard at the game. But you're talking about a guy who can change everything, the complexion of the paint.
And now, for the first time, I think you're going to like this young man. Let's meet Shawn Bradley.
Obviously, everybody's talking about what you could do in the NBA, but being gone for 2 years, how are you going to make up for lost time?
Well, it's gonna be a long process. I mean, it's gonna take some time this summer, but I'm just gonna have to work really hard and then go from there and just try to get back in shape as soon as possible.
How would you assess your athletic ability? We know the tail of the tape, how tall you are, but how would you assess your ability?
Just a 7'6" kid that loves to have fun and loves to play the game. I feel, at 7'6", being able to play many different sports has been a benefit all my life, and I enjoy the game a lot. My heart's into it, and I just want to go out and be the best I can be in anything.
If your heart's into it and you love the game, was it tough to miss it for 2 years doing your mission?
It wasn't the easiest thing to do, leaving basketball, but I tell you what, I would not trade my missionary experience for anything in the world. It is the best thing to have prepared me for the rest of my life than anything I could have done at that time. I loved serving my mission, and even though I love basketball with all my heart, my missionary work was something that I'll never regret.
Doug Collins was the #1 pick in the whole draft, went to Philadelphia in 1973. He knows the fans are great, but they can get down on you. How are you going to handle any negative criticism?
Well, if I had to listen to negative criticism, I'd have stopped playing a long time ago because it's just part of the game. But as long as I go out and remember the things that I grew up with and play hard and give it my 100%, then I know things are going to be okay.
Well, good luck. I know Philadelphia is awfully happy right now.
May see the Sixers with some half-court traps with Bradley in the lane. 7'6", 250 pounds. Coming up next, Golden State. Is there a deal happening out there? We have Ernie Johnson out in Oakland. We'll be getting that in a moment. Golden State coming up next. Quickly, Doug Collins, you have something for fans to look for here.
Yeah, if Anthony Hardaway is a selection, there still could be something going on with Orlando. They might make a deal for Webber instead of Shawn Bradley, but the pick has been Mashburn all along. If it's Hardaway, it might still be something going, so keep our eye on that.
Okay, well, we're just about ready for the #3 pick in the 1993 NBA draft. The first two have been Chris Webber and Shawn Bradley, and now here's David Stern.
With the 3rd pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Golden State Warriors select Anthony Hardaway from Memphis State University.
Anthony Hardaway, the 3rd pick in 1993. His grandmother, Louise Hardaway, in the green room with him, hugging him. You just saw a shot of her a moment ago. Faye Patterson, his mom, getting a hug. His coach is with him. A wonderful moment for Anthony Hardaway, 6'7", right near 200 pounds, from Memphis State, the greatest player in the history of Memphis State, certainly while he's been in college. Some people say they remind him of a young Magic Johnson. He is a ball-handling point guard at 6'7". He can play 2 or 3 positions if he needs to, and now he dons the cap of the Golden State Warriors. And Hubie, the question might be, how long will he wear that Golden State Warriors cap as Anthony Hardaway now enters the arena?
Well, it's interesting because the scouts that you truly respect in this league feel that he is the best player in the draft. We're talking about a tremendously talented individual, 2-time player of the year in his conference. He makes everyone else better. He not only can score, penetrate, make the pass, but he's also a premier rebounder, averaging over 8 a game at the college level.
Anthony Hardaway, 6'6" to 6'7", 200 pounds. And Doug Collins, when we look at this video, you see a tremendous talent. I'll tell you something else to compliment you, too. He reminds me a little bit of a young Doug Collins.
Well, the thing I love about him is he loves to play basketball. He can beat you off the dribble. He can pull up and shoot the shot. He's very, very unselfish. I'm in agreement with Hubie. I feel like he's the best player at this point in time in the draft. I just think he makes people better. You watch him run the fast break. He plays with a smile on his face with this infectious enthusiasm, and I think that just transcends down to the team. I just think he's a wonderful player, and you see his body right now, and he's going to get bigger and stronger as he continues to mature.
Great all-around player, needs to have a little bit more weight. Any other comments about that, Hubie, about how we look at him as he moves into the pros?
Yeah, but we've seen that with all of the great ones that come in with his type of a slender build. They develop, they get on the weight program, the power weightlifting, they bulk up in the upper part of the body without it disturbing their shot or their passing skills.
Let's meet Anthony Hardaway. He's with Craig Sigger.
Well, Hubie and Doug both agree you're the best player in the draft. You go third, not first. Now there's talk that you won't stay with Golden State. You may get traded. How much anxiety is going through you right now?
I don't know. I'm very happy. I was kind of feeling sad when I came in, kind of nervous, but I'm pretty good right now.
You're spending a lot of time on a Hollywood set doing Blue Chips. Can you compare the stage there and the stage you just stood on now?
Well, nothing compares to this. You only get drafted once, and it's a feeling of a lifetime that I'll never forget.
After the disappointments in high school, going through Proposition 48, then going to Memphis State, making the Dean's List, what was that process like?
Well, it was a hard process, but I knew that I could do it. In high school, I didn't want to do it. I didn't prepare myself to get my homework and all that, but then, once I got to college, I knew I had to. So that's when it all came into place. It wasn't that I couldn't, I just didn't want to. So I just made the change to college and started doing it.
Great example of if a kid's coachable, chances are he's also teachable. What about the comment about another Magic Johnson? That's not a fair assessment, but it comes from Magic himself.
Well, Magic is one of my best players, that's in the NBA right now, and because of the height and the passing ability of Magic and myself, then they compare. It's a great comparison because I love Magic's game.
Well, good luck. Congratulations with whatever team you go to.
All right, thank you.
Bob?
Anthony Hardaway is the third selection to Golden State. Anthony Hardaway, by the way, was on the Dean's List. This is a smart young man, and he had to overcome some very tough times in high school. He was shot in the foot. Many people thought it could end his athletic career. But Anthony Hardaway, by the way, I want to mention one other thing about the movie that Craig mentioned, Blue Chip, starring Nick Nolte. That's being filmed out in Hollywood, and Anthony is playing a role in that movie. That was the reference made. But here's a man who could really revolutionize a team. Think of him with any kind of inside game, passing game, small team like Golden State.
Well, I think the team right now sitting back is Dallas. They were sort of hoping that Jimmy Jackson and Anthony Hardaway were going to be their backcourt of the future. They're going to get a great player in Jamal Mashburn, but I think they sort of had their eyes set on Anthony Hardaway. Bob, one thing I would like to say right now at this point, people say, well, if there's going to be a trade with Golden State and Orlando, why didn't Orlando take Sean Bradley? Well, it might be that you take Sean Bradley, you can't work out a deal. If you can't work out a deal, you've got Chris Webber, so you keep him. You've got your power forward that you want. If you can make out a deal, maybe they want a Webber and you get a Hardaway. So I think from Orlando's point, if you take Sean Bradley, you better be sure that you can make that deal, or all of a sudden you're looking at a guy maybe you can't sign. Now you got Shaquille and Sean Bradley. So I think that's why what happened and what transpired did tonight.
So a bit of self-protection maybe involved in that too.
Yes.
Well, our next pick coming up, there's some scrambling going on in Dallas right now. Dallas made it no secret they would really like to have Anthony Hardaway in the backcourt with Jimmy Jackson. But the man who is left, who's impressed everybody in his meetings, left at this point, among many others, Jamal Mashburn.
Well, Jamal Mashburn is 6'8", 240. We're talking about a tremendously talented young man. Not only can he post up and play inside for you, but he has the range of the best small forwards in the league. This young man is a three-point shooter, not from college range, but from NBA range. He can take it off the dribble. This guy right now, you're not being stuck with anyone. You are getting a premier top talent in this draft. And we all know over the last 3 days, he also could have been the #1 pick in this draft.
Orlando very impressed when they had a meeting. Now, Dallas only won 11 games last year. Remember, Jimmy Jackson looked great, even though he came in midseason. Doug Smith, Randy White, some of the top choices that they have had. Here's a look at Dallas as they stack up.
Well, if you look at their team right now, you've got now Derek Harper and Jimmy Jackson in the backcourt. You have a Doug Smith. You have a Jamal Mashburn. You have a Sean Rooks. So their team is much, much better at this point. So I'm sure Quinn Buckner is sitting back right now in Dallas thinking, you know, we now have the makings of a team that now can be competitive and can get better as the season goes on. Because when you have young players, you expect them to improve.
Roy Tarpley is still out there. Naturally, a major question mark. Played in Greece this past season. Got off to a terrific start during November and December. Had a severe injury, missed a number of weeks, gained some weight now, but came back strong. Now, the big question is, how about if he comes back, passes his physical, and also is reinstated in the NBA? All of a sudden, you are now a premier team for playoff time.
And let's find out who Dallas' pick is. Here's David Stern.
In the 1993 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Jamal Mashburn from the University of Kentucky.
Jamal Mashburn with Robert, his dad, and Helen, his mom, giving him hugs as he walks past his family and friends and some other future #1 picks who are in the room waiting their turn. Leaving the green room, approaching the arena, is Jamal Mashburn from Kentucky. All-American, co-SEC Player of the Year along with Vanderbilt's Bill McCaffrey, donning the cap of the Dallas Mavericks. A real inside-out player. This is not just a strong rebounding forward, but this is a man who's got some tremendous range on his shot and a player who's gotten better and better and better, Doug.
When you look at Jamal Mashburn, I talked to a lot of general managers. They felt like he had the most impressive workout of any people that they brought in. He was in great shape, shot the ball well, played a lot of different scrimmages. This young man has a chance to be a great NBA player, an all-star. And the thing I like about him, and Hubie was talking about, is his versatility. He might be able to overpower smaller small forwards and take a bigger power forward out on the floor and use his speed and quickness, so he gives you versatility.
We use the word inside-out player for this fella.
Well, absolutely. And the big thing that you like about him is he's extremely coachable, and he plays big in the big games. He's a hard worker. He's in a program that anytime that you're in a program that presses and traps, you know that you must lay it out on the line every day at practice as well as the games.
Jamal Mashburn, he was certainly a man at Kentucky. He played his high school ball at Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx, New York. Problem versus quicker players, probably not a great problem unless you're dealing with somebody like a, well, say, Michael Jordan. Let's go to Craig Sager now with Jamal Mashburn.
Well, Hubie says post-up moves, NBA range. Doug says versatility. Have the Mavericks drafted a power forward or a small forward?
I think they're going after everything. I think I'm going to go down there and play very well and just love the organization. And I'm just glad I got picked by Dallas. Great state.
Why?
Because there's a lot of playing time down there, and I'm going to do a lot of good things for them. I came from a winning organization, and we're just going to continue. We're going to win in Dallas.
You played so well throughout the season. Then at the tryout camps, you impressed everybody. What was your philosophy going into those camps and going into the tryouts you had?
Well, it was natural for me. Coach Pitino prepared me for this a long time ago when I first stepped on the court at Kentucky as a freshman. So I knew what to do and knew how to do it, really. And we do it every day in practice, and it's nothing new to me at all.
You've already got a $1 million endorsement contract with FILA. What was the reasoning for signing that so early?
Well, they put me in a class with Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan, and I'm a rich man now. I don't have to worry about the NBA contract, so I'm just going to go out there and play basketball and have a lot of fun.
Well, good luck in Dallas.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bob?
Jamal Mashburn, good luck in Dallas, sounded a little bit like good luck in Dallas, you know what I mean. Well, Dallas got a lot better with Jimmy Jackson. This will certainly help them too. One quick note here, the Celtics have announced about an hour ago that they signed their 1989 second-round draft choice, Dino Radja, the player from Europe, to a multi-year contract. People have been wondering if the Celtics were going to try to get some international player for help up front. They've been looking at this fella for a couple of years, and now the Celtics have signed him. Also, we've been talking about the fact that Orlando picked Chris Webber first, Golden State selected Anthony Hardaway. Was there a trade coming? Let's go to David Stern, the commissioner.
Ladies and gentlemen,
having a little bit of a PA problem is the reason for the pause from the commissioner.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade. Orlando has traded the draft rights to Chris Webber to Golden State in exchange for the draft rights to Anthony Hardaway and 3 future first-round draft picks, which will be exercised at the earliest in the years 1996, 1998, and 2000.
Anthony Hardaway, all of a sudden now realizing he's going to be passing the ball to Shaquille O'Neal. Chris Webber from the University of Michigan will be going to Golden State. Doug, we talked about this right at the top.
Well, I think it's helped both teams because Golden State desperately needed a rebounder. You talk about them getting healthy with Chris Mullin. You've got Tim Hardaway. You have Marshallonis. You have Billy Owens. I mean, they're loaded out there with talent. Now they've got a bigger guy. You took Anthony Hardaway. You put him there passing the basketball. You've got Dennis Scott spotting up at the three-point line. You have Nick Anderson creating off the dribble. You have Shaquille O'Neal in the post. I think this helps both teams. I really do, and I think this is a good trade for both people.
I know it's getting way ahead of this, but I think of things like Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When you think of the young Hardaway and the young Shaquille O'Neal, that's a powerful 1-2 punch, Hubie.
Oh, absolutely. The thing that you always want, especially because Orlando plays upbeat basketball. They're a team that loves to play at 110 to 125 points to begin with. So what you need is a director and also another guy who can rebound for you. And from that point position, he can do that. He can do everything. He can not only hit the outside shots, create off the dribble, but post up. And the other thing which is interesting are the 3 future firsts. You cannot give away a first in back-to-back years. So what you must do is space the 3 firsts. So when you think about it a second, they didn't really strip themselves at Golden State. They'll always have a first-round pick every other year down the line. And now Golden State has added a powerful rebounder to go with all of these great shooters that were injured this year. Hardaway, Mullin, Marshallonis, Billy Owens. If they all come back healthy, come on, this is a very, very good basketball team with an experienced Alexander now at center or big forward, and you can play. Now you've got a nice 3 rotation with Owen, Webber, and Alexander. I like it for both teams.
I just right now can feel TNT and the NBA adding Golden State games to our schedule.
Bob, I think one thing to look out for at this point in time is, now what does this do to Scott Skiles?
Yes.
Does Orlando now move Scott Skiles? You know, what do they do with a Brian Williams? Because at some point in time they're going to have to free up some money to be able to sign Anthony Hardaway. Scott Skiles was a guy last year that played 48 minutes 13 or 14 times. Hardaway, you know, is going to step in, probably be their starter. Does this make Scott Skiles expendable? If so, look at the 26th pick, Orlando, to try to get them a backup veteran point guard to come in to play behind Anthony Hardaway.
It's Minnesota's turn, only 19 wins last year. Here's David Stern.
With the 5th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Isaiah J.R. Rider from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
J.R. Rider said just before this, I want to be called Isaiah beginning now. And he is the first senior taken in the draft, to show you the quality of these undergraduates who have been called out here. So, J.R., call me Isaiah from Nevada that Hardaway is, but a versatile player, J.R. Isaiah. Now, you can't see it because he has a suit on, but just over his heart on the left side, on his chest, is tattooed his name, Isaiah, and his number 34, which he says he wants to wear when he gets to the boat. This is a young man who's had, there's no other way to say it, a checkered past in terms of the colleges he's been, questions about his academics, but while he was at UNLV, and most of the people are wondering how good a citizen will Isaiah Rider be as he goes into the very tough life of the NBA.
Well, you know, I think you talk about a guy like Jeff McCloskey who's in Minnesota. He is not afraid to pull the trigger on a talented player. He was not going to pass up J.R. Rider. They had him in for a workout. This young man was devastating. He can post, he can explode over you, he can step out and shoot the ball to the three-point range. You put him on the floor with Doug West. Now you've got a Chuck Person. You have a Christian Laettner. They'll probably start Luke Longley. They've made the trade now for Mike Brown. They have improved themselves dramatically. This guy is a 20-point-per-game scorer, and don't believe that he does not have a chance to be Rookie of the Year this year. He has that kind of talent.
You're talking about a guy, 29 points a game, but at the NBA level, with the added minutes, he is a over 50% shooter, and if you noticed, he's an 8 to 9 rebounder. That means that he takes you down inside that foul line and can punish people on the offensive board. Doug and I were talking yesterday. I thought Doug made a great point. This is a young man that can come in and on special nights get you 25 to 35 at the NBA level. And you cannot say that about very many guys in any draft.
And often, like the great runners that go into the NFL, the great scorers can often come in and start scoring for you right away. Let's meet Isaiah Rider with Craig Sager.
Well, just got through checking out the roster, and there are no number 34s on Minnesota. Congratulations. I know you want that uniform number.
34 is mine. That's what got me here. So I thank you. I appreciate it.
What if you would have gone to Phoenix where Barkley wears 34?
I think me and Barkley would have flipped the coin. We both got attitude, so, you know, we would have flipped the coin and went from there.
You mentioned the attitude. Everywhere you went, everybody says how smart this kid is. Yet you had academic problems in high school and again at UNLV. What gives?
Two things I've learned. I've learned to deal with people's characteristics, nastiness, and I've learned to also overcome my mistakes personally and then put it together. And I'm becoming a young man, and I'm learning as I go. I'm 22, and everything is going good. You know, I'm nasty on the court. Other than that, I'm a perfect man in society. So I'm looking forward to what's in front of me.
Minnesota could be the perfect place for you. A chance to go in with a young team, get a lot of playing time. They also already mentioned maybe Rookie of the Year. What are the goals and plans you have for yourself?
I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to take it one day at a time, learn from the veterans, and attack everybody like I have no respect for them. But I'm going to learn as I go and just do the same things I've been doing to stay aggressive.
A rookie won the slam dunk last year. If you're in it, you're going to win it this time?
If I get in a slam dunk contest, I guarantee it, I'm taking it. I'm telling everybody now.
Okay, J.R. Rider, things will be exciting in Minnesota.
With the 6th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Washington Bullets select Calbert Cheaney from the University of Indiana.
reason is that I think that I am extremely well coordinated. I have the athletic talent. I have the foot speed. He's a winner. We know that. And the big thing is he wants the ball for the big shot. So you know that he has incredible character. Now, we know that his game is dynamite from the foul line down. So people say, well, can he play the two-guard position? Well, everything is in relative to the type of offense that you run. And I'm sure that Wes Unseld in their passing game will find spots and areas for him to excel.
Here is a young man who is 6'7", as you see, has an excellent game, and some people think he may be the best pro prospect out of Indiana since a person who's here in this building, Isaiah Thomas, with the Detroit Pistons. Let's meet Calbert Cheney. He's with Craig Singer.
Well, Doug Collins said you weren't highly recruited out of high school. Before Michigan had the Fab Five, Indiana had the Magnificent Seven that one year, but you were 7th on the depth chart. How were you able to get the most out of Coach Knight's system, become the Player of the Year?
Well, just going in and just working, just playing as hard as I can play, and not worry about whether or not how many minutes I get and what I contribute to the team. I just went in there and played hard, and luckily everything came out as a flower.
Isaiah Thomas is the standard by which all Hoosiers are judged, Indiana players. How do you think you will do in the pros? How do you think your game is suited for the Washington Bullets?
I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. I've been trying to answer that question for millions of, I've been trying to answer millions of questions for the past few days, so we'll have to see what happens.
What about your game? Inside, outside?
I think I can do both. If called on, to play a little bit of the two, that's no problem for me. Just go out, and all I want to do is just compete well and do what's best for Coach Unseld and the Washington Bullets.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
We'll continue our coverage from the Palace in Auburn Hills, the draft here on TNT in just a moment.
In 1984, the Philadelphia 76ers held the 5th pick in the draft, who would join an already star-studded team.
I hope I can learn from Moses and Dr. J and all the great players they already have.
Charles learned his lessons well. After 8 turbulent seasons in Philadelphia, Barkley was traded to Phoenix, where he was named Most Valuable Player and led the Suns into the NBA Finals. This is the AT&T Draft Flashback. They used to call him the round mound of rebound, and now he was the MVP with Phoenix. We're at the Palace in Auburn Hills for the 1993 NBA Draft. Chris Webber, the first selection, traded to Golden State. Sean Bradley at Philadelphia. The Sixers hope he will stay there. Anthony Hardaway has been traded to Orlando to match up with Shaquille O'Neal. Jamal Mashburn went to Dallas, and Isaiah J.R. Ryder out of UNLV went to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Calbert Cheney from Indiana University moments ago to the Washington Bullets. Now, coming up next, the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento winners of only 25 games last year. They had a ton of games missed with injured players. Richmond, Williams, they need some physical presence. They also need a good point guard, and a lot of people, including Sacramento, have said right along, without any doubt, without any covering it over, we're going to take Bobby Hurley. Let's find out if that's what the case is. Here's David Stern.
With the 7th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select Bobby Hurley from Duke University.
Bobby Hurley hugging his dad and his mom, Robert Hurley Sr. and Christine Hurley. Bobby, 6 feet tall, led Duke to the national championship. And Doug Collins, this is a man that your young son, Chris, who plays at Duke, knows very well, and that you've learned a great deal about. Number 8 in the draft to Sacramento. What do you think?
He's a winner, and he's a physically very talented player. The boos you hear here are from the Michigan people because Michigan could never beat Bobby Hurley when he was at Duke. He used to drive a stake through their heart every time they played. So this young man is a consummate player, great quickness. He has a 35-inch vertical jump, and if you want to give the ball to a guy and say, hey, run our team, just ask Mike Krzyzewski or Coach Bob Hurley, if they would like to have him back for 4 more years, and I'm sure you would hear the answer be yes.
Coach Brown, I bet you would like to have had a player like this.
Well, the thing that you get with Bobby, he's a tenacious defender. He has outstanding lateral movement, and then he will find the people on the break. He's very unselfish. He comes from a high school team, St. Anthony's of Jersey City. They were undefeated, 32-0, won the state championship and the national championship. And then at Duke, getting into the Final Four and the championships that they won there, you know that he understands what winning is about. And that's what they're looking for at Sacramento.
And remember, the all-time assist leader in NCAA history, as you saw one of his great passes after he penetrated into the point. Court instincts. This is a tough city kid kind of player. As Doug said, not necessarily a suburban game. Let's meet Bobby Hurley.
Well, anybody who doubted your ability or strength to play in the NBA obviously didn't watch you last summer when you took on the Dream Team. Nobody could stop you. Chuck Daly had to put the glove, Michael Jordan, on you. What did that experience do for your confidence?
Well, it was a great confidence boost, and I think it really helped my chances to move on and get drafted pretty highly. And I don't think I would have been in the position I am right now if it wasn't for that experience.
You play so hard every second you're on that court. Playing 3-4 times a week, 82 games during the course of the regular season. You think you have the stamina now to hold up?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just need to make sure I come into camp in real good shape, and it's going to be a tough process, but I think I can work through it.
Everywhere you've gone, you've made the players around you better, and you've won a championship. Whether it was high school or at Duke, what are you going to do for Sacramento?
Well, I just want to try and make them better and just give it my best each time out and make sure that I'm ready to go when the season starts and just try and do whatever I can for the franchise.
Well, good luck. I know they're very happy to have you.
Thanks a lot.
Bobby Hurley from the national champion years at Duke University goes to Sacramento. In just a moment, we'll continue. We'll be checking on the Milwaukee Bucks. They're up next. Back to the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan at the 1993 NBA Draft. Next up, the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Milwaukee is a team that won 28 games. They started on fire last NBA season, then really hit a slump, finished 12th overall in the Eastern Conference. And Mike Dunleavy there has a lot of rebuilding to do, particularly up front. They have to improve their rebounding and shot blocking, and the indications are that Milwaukee is going to go big with their draft choice.
Well, I think when you look at their ball club, last year they picked up speed by Murdoch, Mayberry, Day, Edwards. So they went young. They got the quickness on all the perimeter positions. Now what he's trying to do is to go big and with quickness and shot blocking, because now you can go down the floor and you can play multiple types of defenses. I think that's what Mike might have in the future for Milwaukee. And Moses Malone, unrestricted free agent, is going to be allowed to walk. And then it's going to come down to what are they going to do with Shays and Bukowski and a few of the other older fellas.
Let's see if Milwaukee decides to go big with the pick that they have in the draft, which comes up at number 8. Here is Milwaukee.
With the 8th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Vin Baker from the University of Hartford.
From Little Hartford comes Vin Baker. 6'10 and a half, 225 pounds, 22 years old. You see him there with his mom, Jean. Some close family friends. James Baker giving Vin a hug there. And Vinny Baker's very multi-talented. He could play small forward, big forward. He certainly got the height to play at the big forward position. But one of the questions that reaches right out to you right at the very beginning, Hubie, as he played at Hartford, has he seen the competition, and has he had a good measure?
Well, okay, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Kersey at Portland. Come on, I mean, if you have the talent, you are going to develop. If you're going to be coachable, you'll have the work habits. He has the frame, and he already has the timing. Plus, he was the 4th leading scorer in the country last year at 28 points a game. So the shot blocking is what they're looking for, as well as the quickness and rebounding.
And of course, Reggie Lewis came out of that same conference. We see how Reggie Lewis developed into the captain of the Celtics.
Bob, in talking to Mike Dunleavy, I think the pick came down between Vin Baker and Roger Rodney Rogers from Wake Forest, who's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. I think they feel like the upside of this young man, he's a little bit taller, and he's going to fill out, and he has a little bit more versatility. So I think that's what the pick came down to. Mike Dunleavy decided to go with Ben Baker.
A little bit of a look of the man is, again, he's a 6'10" and a half player who can play small and big in terms of the 3 and 4 positions in the NBA.
Well, look at him put it on the floor in a spin move, and then you hang in the air and you take it away from the defense. I mean, when he gets stronger, his game is only going to expand. I mean, you see the weakness free throw shooting. That's something you can definitely improve on. This guy has got the wingspan and the height to play 2 positions for Milwaukee on the front court, which is what they need.
And now representing Hartford, here, let's meet Ben Baker.
Well, not being on TV a lot in college, then moving up to the NBA is a tall order. What about the level of competition? How do you feel you're prepared?
I feel I'm prepared well for the NBA. You know, it's a great spectrum for basketball, and I feel I've prepared myself well for it.
You're nearly 7 feet tall, but you led the team in three-point shooting. What kind of player are the Milwaukee Bucks getting?
You know, they're getting the inside, outside threat, a player who can put the ball on the floor effectively and a tremendous competitor. So I'm looking forward to going out there.
It's a big adjustment not only on the court but also off. You grew up right by Hartford. Your father is the minister at the church. You go home singing the choir every Sunday. What about leaving home?
It's going to be a tough adjustment, but I'm looking forward to it. I love the game of basketball, and I'm sure my family will stay with me spiritually, so I'm looking forward to it.
Reverend James is going to miss you in that choir, though.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, good luck, Bob.
With the 15th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Doug Edwards from Florida State University.
So the Seminole from Florida State, Doug Edwards, goes to the Atlanta Hawks, as Doug and Hubie predicted might happen. A skilled player, inside-out abilities, pretty good passer. He was said to be 6'9", in his bare feet he measured 6'7", so he's one of these players who shrunk a little bit when he was measured. He is, as you see here, in the Palace in the green room, and he puts on the cap of the Atlanta Hawks. How about that size differential? Will it matter?
You can play big, Bob. This young man has a lot of skill. I've seen him have a lot of big games, but he's been inconsistent. And what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to find a way to strap it on 82 times in the NBA. You get into the playoffs, you're talking well over 100 games. He has the physical skill to do it. Let's remember the team this guy played on. Bobby Sura, Cassell, a very, very talented team. I think he has tremendous pro potential. It's going to be up to him how badly he wants it.
Right now, the power forwards are leading in the draft. The 6 power forwards.
Well, you can see right there the 18 points and the 9 rebounds, naturally to 53% because he plays from the foul line down. But check the pounds. He's 235. See, he's very quick. He played on a team that was up-tempo. The Hawks like to run, all right? In the past, that was their style. But what they must do is they must shore up their defense because they were at the bottom of the league field goal percentage against. And when you think about it, they've added another defender, another rebounder, and a guy can possibly block shots.
And already when you get into this area, you have question marks. Will Doug Edwards be a consistent, focused player? Well, Lenny Wilkens is the kind of guy who gets consistency and focus out of his players. Let's meet Doug Edwards. He's with Greg Singer.
Well, what about Lenny Wilkens? I know you went to a lot of teams. You told me you're going anywhere from 10 to 17. How do you feel about going to the Hawks and with Lenny?
I think it's a great situation for me. You know, I went down, worked out pretty hard, and the coaches love me. And I'm just looking forward to playing with Coach Lenny Wilkens.
You know, I saw you in high school. You did absolutely everything. One of the most highly recruited players anywhere. Then at Florida State, we saw only about 80% of your ability. Why?
Oh, at Florida State, I didn't work as hard as I should have, and it kind of paid off, and it hurt me a little bit. But at the end of my senior season, I started playing much harder, and it paid off.
What was the problem?
After the season, I never hardly worked out as hard as I should have. And when the season came along, I was so far behind, it was kind of hard to get back into shape.
What about the height differential? 6'9.5" at Florida State, then they say 6'7". How tall are you?
I think I'm 6'8", and it shouldn't be a problem. I'm just going there and do my best.
You're standing tall now.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck with the Hawks and with Lenny Wilkens.
Thanks.
The New Jersey Nets are next as we continue our coverage from Auburn Hills, the Palace, here on TNT. Stay tuned.
Back at the Palace in Detroit. Next up, the New Jersey Nets, who won 43 games last year, were 6th in the East, coached, of course, by Chuck Daly. The New Jersey Nets with the selection coming up next. And, well, of course, the tragic loss of Drazen Petrovic and Chris Dudley, their very effective, hard-working center, goes to free agency.
Well, you look at their key additions. P.J. Brown, a young man that was drafted last year, has signed a forward that will play for the New Jersey Nets next year. They've added Benoit Benjamin. They traded him for Sam Bowie. So we'll have to see. Speculation is they'll go for a two-guard, maybe a Greg Graham here to replace the position of the loss of Drazen Petrovic.
Let's see what they do. Here's David Stern.
With the 16th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the New Jersey Nets select Rex Walters from the University of Kansas.
Rex Walters, 6'3", 201 pounds, 34-inch vertical leap. He is a left-hander, very solid player. Went to high school in San Jose, California. Was born in Omaha, played at Kansas. Here's a guy you know, Hubie Brown.
Yeah, well, he was at Northwestern for 2 years and made the All-Big Ten. Now, in the last 2 years at Kansas, first team All-Big 8. Now, this young man has three-point range. You see, he shot it at 43%. He's a courageous guy. He has never seen a shot that he didn't like. All right, a typical Doug Collins protege. All right, but this young guy has got that type of scoring ability. Now, the quickness, the lateral movement, that will be something that he can work on. But everything else is there. The competitor, the shooting ability, the ability to catch and shoot on the move.
A lot of people even feel like he has some point guard skills, that he might be able to play in the backcourt as a point guard a little bit. So good choice here. I thought they would go with the guard. I looked down on my sheet here, and I'd seen Greg Graham and Rex Walters' name, and they decided to go with Walters. I think it's a good pick for them.
Two left-handers in the backcourt also when Kenny Anderson comes back.
Well, hopefully Kenny Anderson will make a speedy recovery and that he'll be able to come back at 100%. He had such an outstanding season last year, and naturally when you play with a great penetrator, you always want the off guard to be a high percentage guy who can shoot the three-pointer, and Rex Walters has that type of range. So now we're not saying that he's in a Petrovic class. Drazen is one of the greatest that we've had at that area, three-point shooting in the history of the league. But Rex Walters is feisty. He's 6'4". He has the ability to shoot the high percentage for you, and that's all you're asking for.
If you're Chuck Daly, do you feel better about your team now with this young man?
Well, I think he's a talent, but he's not going to replace Drazen Petrovic. As Hubie said, I mean, this Drazen Petrovic had elevated himself into one of the top scoring guards in the NBA. So, I mean, you know, they hope that Rex Walters is going to be able to play well, but he's not ready to play like Drazen Petrovic did.
Still some problems for New Jersey, and I'm sure Chuck Daly and the coaching staff and the general manager are thinking about that right now. Next up, the Charlotte Hornets, the surprise expansion team who played so very well in the playoffs. And their first-round picks, Mourning, Johnson, Gill, J.R. Reed, and Chapman, who left there, but even those players were excellent selections in the first round for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Charlotte Hornets have some problems with Kendall Gill. What is the status of Kendall Gill? What will happen there? Let's talk a little bit about that, Doug.
Well, it's in a very difficult situation because he is a restricted free agent, and next year he can become an unrestricted free agent. And in doing that, he can decide where you trade him to. He's given them really 4 places that he would go to, so he's limited where you can trade him to, and those people are not willing to give equal value. So, I mean, this is a very, very difficult situation, very similar to what the Clippers were in with Charles Smith when they traded him to the New York Knicks. So they're going to have to, get this taken care of. Kendall Gill, it's interesting because I think he's in a terrific situation in Charlotte. It's my understanding he does not want to be the third guy down there. But when you've got a Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, a Kendall Gill, you've got an opportunity to be a championship team. He's chosen that he wants to play somewhere else, and he's got them in a very difficult spot.
So, and when you think about the third guy, when you think about James Worthy and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson, who's really the third guy there? When you think about Parrish, Bird, and McHale, who's the third guy? It's not that he's a third guy, but that they have 3. And every time you look at the players, 3 seems to be the magic number in your starting rotation to be a really powerful team.
Yeah, but all 3 guys must want to be subservient to the team goals.
Yes.
And they must also want to be totally unselfish and understand the role that they have in the big 3. Now, Charlotte, we know, has been talking. They'd like to shore up the small forward position. They'd like to also get a guy big up front. And I think, Doug, that they're in a position right now to get exactly what they wanted.
You know, a guy that has slipped down a little bit is A.C. Earl. Might be a good pick for them at this position, a big guy to give them a backup player.
Since we've all hit the other two, I'll say maybe a guard also.
All right.
Let's check in on Charlotte.
With the 17th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Greg Graham from the University of Indiana.
Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, Greg Graham, 6'3", 179 from Indiana.
This guy can defend. He is the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. Look at the points and the shooting percentage, and then the three-point shooting. This is a terrific selection for them. Not only are they getting a guy with size at the point, but he can play both positions for you because he's such an excellent defender. And I like this choice for them, Doug, because now it gives them a lot of maneuverability in that backcourt.
Absolutely. And also, too, let's think about his Indiana team. He really blossomed when Alan Henderson went out with a knee injury. I really believe had Alan Henderson stayed healthy and you had Greg Graham, Calbert Chaney, and Alan Henderson, this would have been the team to beat, not to take anything away from Carolina. But, you know, he's already been involved in a star-studded team, so I think he's going to fit in well.
Well, he can score big points in bunches in big games.
And think how he fits in there with the big guard Kendall Gill, the forward in Larry Johnson, the center Alonzo Mourning, and now a ball-handling, defensive-minded point guard for Charlotte. They must be very pleased with that selection. So we'll be back here to the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan, to continue with the draft of 1993 right after this.
This edition of the AT&T Draft Flashback takes us back 1 year ago when the second prize in the draft was Georgetown All-American center Alonzo Mourning. The 6'11" big man was selected second overall by the Charlotte Hornets, teaming with Larry Johnson to form a devastating front line. Mourning averaged 21 points and 10 rebounds, leading the Hornets into the playoffs for the first time in their history and earning all rookie honors.
I think they're still cheering in Charlotte for that great playoff run that the Hornets had. Bob Neal, Doug Collins, Hubie Brown back with you at the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Utah Jazz up next. We talk about one of their needs being a replacement for the aging center Mark Eaton. Here are the centers remaining. Sean Bradley, of course, already went to Philadelphia in the second pick. Some pretty good players here, but all with some kind of question mark.
Well, you know, they got Felton Spencer in a trade, so they might go a different direction. You do have the big guys. You know, I've heard they like Scott Burrell out here also, the young player from Connecticut, so we'll have to see.
Well, let's find out who Utah selects now. Here's David Stern.
With the 18th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Luther Wright from Seton Hall University.
Luther Wright is here in the Palace. See him with his family and friends. Luther Wright, 7'2", 275 pounds.
Well, they've added about 14 feet of center today. You've got Felton Spencer and Luther Wright. And you talk about shoring up the middle. Hubie, we saw him yesterday walking around here in a tank top. This young man has really been lifting weights. He is gigantic.
Well, they say that he's bench pressing 365 pounds right now. Tommy Sullivan, the assistant coach of Seton Hall, really has him on a tough conditioning program. This is a young man who came in as a freshman at 360 pounds. By the way, he started his high school at St. Anthony's in Jersey City as a 9th grader and then went to Elizabeth High School where they won a number of state championships and then went on to Seton Hall. Now they're taking a shot with this guy because last year is the first time that he really got quality playing time at Seton Hall. But you're talking 7'2", great hands, can play with his back to the basket, and he takes up a lot of space.
When they weighed Luther Wright in Chicago at the pre-draft camp, he weighed in there at 313 pounds, even though he was listed prior to that at 275. So he's right about 310, 315 at 7'2", Luther Wright, and he goes to Utah.
You know, Bob, I think an interesting trend in the draft has been we've seen 18 picks now. 9 of them have been guards. And, you know, you start talking about emulating the success of the champions. Chicago has built their team really with perimeter greatness. You've seen now the big guys, other than the Chris Webbers and the Sean Bradleys, have started to slip to the end of the first round. And we'll take a look here at Luther Wright now in the post.
See, Luther can play with his back to the basket. He has a soft shot. They never really went into him an awful lot. He didn't get that many shot opportunities. Now, that can be the system, but also can be his work ethic. Let's put it both ways. But he is strong. He is powerful. Now, being the 3rd center drafted, we've only had 3 power forwards drafted and 3 centers in the first 18 picks.
Luther Wright, we saw here yesterday in the Palace as we were preparing for the draft. He walked in with a tank top on, and let me tell you what, this guy is cut. This is not a roly-poly round mound of rebound. You're going to get to meet him here in his high-fashion suit and his Utah cap, Craig.
Well, you're right, Bob. It is a high-fashion suit. A big crowd here at the Palace, but also a big crowd at the Delta Center, and you're looking mighty good in your gold, purple, and green.
Thank you very much.
You said you had no idea where you were going. What was it like sitting back there, and what do you feel about the Utah Jazz?
Well, I think I'm going to a pretty strong team. I got a lot of veterans that I can learn from, like Mark Eaton and Karl Malone and John Stockton. So, you know, I'm looking forward to going to a program and try to contribute as much as I can.
You grew up in the East, you played in the East, yet you have toured the world with all-star teams. What about those experiences? How do you think they'll help you adapt to the NBA?
Well, you know, playing in different leagues and traveling with different, you know, USA teams, I think that'll help me, you know, prepare better for the NBA, you know, what to expect, and just go in there and do the best I can.
You mentioned it's a project. You have a lot of work to do. What about your skills? What are you going to work on, and when do you start?
Well, right now I'm going to start try to lose the weight that I picked up, you know, during these couple of weeks. And I just want to go in and work as hard as I can and, you know, give the team what, you know, what is expected of me.
What about Pete Newell's Big Man Camp?
Yeah, I'll be there.
You should be. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bob?
Thank you, Craig. Luther Wright from Seton Hall goes to the Utah Jazz. And earlier, Utah picked up Felton Spencer in a trade with Minnesota, and so they, as you said, added 14 feet of big power men inside. Now, another team that needs inside help coming up next to pick, the Boston Celtics. Let's take a look at the wants and the needs of the Boston Celtics and talk just a little bit about what this team is going to do, possibly. 48 wins last year.
Well, you know, you think about, you're not going to replace Kevin McHale. I mean, this is one of the all-time great low-post players. Real concern is the health of Reggie Lewis. You know, will Reggie be able to play next year with his heart condition? Ed Pinckney, who missed all the last season, will be back, and if he's back, he will shore up their efforts on the boards. Joe Klein is an unrestricted free agent. Will he be back? They've got a lot of things they can address, UB, whether they go to the front line, they need better perimeter shooting, improve rebounding. They can go a lot of different directions.
Well, first of all, they're right at the bottom of the league in regards to perimeter shooting and three-point play. But they've also, with Pinckney coming back and then signing Raja today, Dina Raja out of Yugoslavia, okay, at the 6'10", you're getting another, you know, quality guy. They have Abdel Nabi, but they want to get better. They must do something about the Joe Klein situation in regards to your backup center. Joe is an unrestricted free agent right now. So how many nights can Parrish give you? Can he do the back-to-back games and give you big-time numbers in the points and the rebounding and shot block?
As the oldest player in the NBA, you have to say no. That's going to decline each game he plays, each week and each month as he gets older. I might want to mention here, just to not get off the subject, but give us all an opportunity. I know Doug and Hubie are joined to wish Red Auerbach, the president of the Boston Celtics, well. Red coming off heart surgery. I know you're watching tonight, Red, so just stay calm. Everything will be okay.
I echo those thoughts, and I think, you know, when you talk about if they're going to go big, you know, who's left on the board? Malcolm Mackey from Georgia Tech. Yep. A.C. Earl from Iowa has not yet been picked. You got Evers Burns from Maryland, who played well in the offseason. You have a Conrad McRae from Syracuse. These are just a few of the big guys who are left out there if they decide to go big.
Plus, you have to think, only they know the situation with Reggie Lewis.
Right.
And we do not know that for sure. All right, all you can do is speculate. Now, what we're saying here is they might go for some quickness in the backcourt.
or a Scotty Burrell who played at Connecticut, who's there. They might go that direction also.
But you see over there, you got Gamble and then you got Rick Fox out at University of North Carolina, who also had a very good season last year. So there are a number of areas they will pick the best athlete that they can at this time.
A.C. Earl has looked pretty good, and we mentioned there were a few centers left. Really, it was Sean Bradley and everybody else when you looked at centers. Luther Wright is already gone in terms of building up the front, and as Hubie said, the Celtics did sign Dino Raja, their 1989 second-round draft choice, prior to the draft tonight. Let's go to David Stern.
With the 19th pick in the 1993 draft, the Boston Celtics select A.C. Earl from the University of Iowa.
There you go. All-time leading shot blocker in Big Ten history out of Iowa. Probably the best senior center available in the draft. A.C. Earl, who is here with us at the Palace in Detroit and enjoying this moment with his family and friends. A.C. Earl Sr., his dad is with him, among others. As A.C. comes out of Iowa to Detroit, and now will be headed to see if he can make his mark in the hall where the 16 banners fly of the Boston Celtics. A legitimate 6'11 and a half he was measured at the Chicago pre-draft camp, so this is a big man.
Bob, he's got some long arms too, and I've seen him play a lot at the University of Iowa. And if you expose the ball, I mean, he's going to block your shot. He's got long arms. He's not a great leaper, but he takes up an awful lot of space. Does not run the floor real well. If he ran better, I think you would have seen him picked much higher in the draft.
Well, you can see right there, that's what they need. They need the shot blocking. They need the guy in the backup role right now that is going to change the percentage of the shots in that area. Now, he does have a nice little game with his back to the basket. He can score, but his #1 priority is right there in the shot block. That's where he'll help the most in his rookie season.
Shot of him running the floor, as you said, one of the questions about him is his ball handling and his court speed. You see there, he did score on the break. Earlier in that video, though, you could see the lumbering moves of A.C. Earl.
You know, an area you can get better, though, Bob. You want to get out and you want to run every day and you want to do quickness drills. You can get quicker and faster. You're not going to get 7 feet tall. So, I mean, if he gets in the gym and does the things he has to do, this could be an excellent, pick for the Boston Celtics.
Let's meet A.C. Earl.
Well, some thought possibly top 10. I know you did, but now talking, Boston's very excited you were available, and you couldn't be more excited, you said. Then they go to the Celtics, a perfect situation.
Yeah, it's a lot of minutes there, a lot of big guys there that's on their way out, so to speak. So maybe I can come in and learn from the great masters of the game, Parrish, McHale, and hopefully get some minutes and work hard for them.
We mentioned the footwork. I know your father was a tight end for an all-pro quarterback, Ken Anderson. What's he told you, and what has he had effect on trying to improve your footwork?
Well, he had a lot of drills for me when I was younger to increase my footwork and speed. So it'd be up to par with the other big guys that I would try to compete against. So I just tried to work on that coming up and working with Paul McKeskey and Bill Walton and those fellas, try to teach me more about the game.
Specifically, what have you been doing? What do those workouts consist of?
There's a lot of things, the weights, the shooting, the conditioning, and a little pool workout.
But again, a guy that's in shape, you've been working as hard off season as you did during the season.
Well, sometimes you have to do what you got to do, to show the teams that you're ready to play and, that you want to pay the price. And so I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to go in there and work hard and show them that, I'm ready.
Well, the Banners sound like they got a good one, Bob.
The Boston Celtics, despite struggling in recent years, still have the charisma and the magic and the tradition. You could see the look of pride on that young man's face. Next up, the Charlotte Hornets get to pick at #20, a trade from San Antonio. 19 players have been chosen in the draft of 1993. It all started with Chris Webber. We are now down to the 20th pick and what will be the second pick in this first round for the Charlotte Hornets. With their first pick, Charlotte went for a guard, Greg Graham, a point guard out of Indiana University. Let's see who pick #2 for Charlotte here in the first round will be. David Stern.
With the 20th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Scott Burrell from the University of Connecticut.
Scott Burrell at 6'6.5" out of the University of Connecticut is the player selected. And Scott Burrell, as you see, is 6'6.5", athletic player, played baseball in Class A for Toronto back in 1990 and 91. An exceptional basketball player, good athletic skills.
You know, the one knock on him is that he's never shot a high percentage, but he's a very strong competitor, defends, you know, passes very, very well. And if you think of Charlotte now, I mean, they've added a Greg Graham and a Scott Burrell to their team. I mean, next year, if they keep a Kendall Gill or if they move him, and you've got Larry Johnson and you've got Alonzo Mourning, I mean, they have definitely upgraded their team. Again, weakness, shoot too much. I don't know who made this graphic. We got to get rid of that thing.
Thing you like about him, though, so he's that aggressive type of player that they're looking for, who can run the well, because they play such a high-octane type of an offense with Bugsy Bogues pushing the ball. So they're looking for this kind of a guy to be at that small forward position as a defender on that second unit. I think it's an excellent pick.
You know, one of the things, Bob, I've always felt hurt Charlotte has been their offensive rebounding. And one of the reasons they've always played an undersized small forward, a Johnny Newman, a David Wingate. This gives them a bigger, stronger body at that position that should help them rebound. Now, they had two guys last year that averaged over 10 rebounds a game, and they gave up more second shots than anybody in the league. So that's an area that he should be able to help them in.
We have been introducing you to these new celebrities, new stars, at least they hope to be stars, certainly new rich people. And now let's continue with that as we go back to Craig Sager.
Well, in the league, just a few minutes, checking out your watch, and already you've been traded. Anthony Hardaway, what does it feel like to be traded in a few minutes, and what do you think now of going to Orlando?
Well, being traded in those few minutes, it was very exciting. I didn't know that I was going to Orlando. You know, I thought Chris was well-deserving of the first pick, and I thought they had made the decision. But once they said about the trade, you know, it surprised me a lot.
The name Chris Webber is announced. The crowd goes nuts. Then they announce you're traded. They're very disappointed. How do you feel?
I'm just happy to be in the #1 pick. I thank God for the ability to play basketball. You know, Anthony and I are great friends. He didn't construct a trade. I didn't construct a trade. I'm just happy to be a part of the NBA.
You don't get to play with Shaq, but you do. A great opportunity to run the show of a young team.
Definitely. I think going down there playing with Shaquille will make me a lot better and make not only Shaq but the whole team a lot better, because I feel that I can do a lot of things down there for them with the players that they have, and hopefully we'll have a successful season.
All right, they give up a good pick. They give up 3 future #1s. Don Nelson obviously wants you badly. What did he tell you on the phone?
He just said, congratulations, you're one of us now. So I thank God for just letting me be part of the team. And he just said, you better be worth it. And I said, I'll be worth it. Don't worry about it.
Well, you're wearing new hats. I hope they fit, and I hope they stay on, and good to see you.
Thanks a lot.
Craig Sager, and it's got Craig one of our TNT NBA caps there, just so that you're under the cap, so to speak.
You've been waiting for that all night, haven't you?
You know, when you're on as long as we are, you're going to get a little bit of my humor, and I know how much you two fellas love it. Portland Trailblazers up next. You know, they took Georgi Morrison, the Romanian, out there and took a look at him, the 7'7" player. Is that a chance? Maybe not here, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a chance. They have absolutely shown the interest, you know, by taking him right out of the tournament over there in Germany and flying him into Portland and probably working him out and see what he could do. We're talking about a guy 7'7". Now, we know right now, sure, they picked up Grant in the trades, but they are basically a small club. But last year, Bryant at the starting center and coming with Cliff Robinson at the backup center position, you know, that's their style. They like that style of play.
You know, I think the interesting thing about Portland last year was, you know, they lose Drexler for 33 games. They still win 51 ball games. They never really got to see the team they wanted to put on the floor. That was Strickland at the point guard with Terry Porter as a 2-guard. Drexler as a small forward, maybe a Cliff Robinson, a Kersey, a Buck Williams, and go to a small lineup. Now you had a Harvey Grant that can score. So definitely they need some bigger bodies. But, you know, they have always gone best athlete, too. So I think you'll either see them go the big guy or maybe the best available athlete. That's the way they've always built their team.
Portland Trailblazers will be our next selection at number 21. I mentioned George Morrison, who is the 7'7" Romanian player out of Romania who played in France last year. He's an incredible sized man, weighs over 300 pounds. Has a little bit of a game. I'm not sure Portland's going to look at him. It reminds me of Portland a few years ago, I think 1986, when Portland selected Sabonis out of the Soviet Union. Everybody thought he might go there. Sabonis didn't do that, actually kind of used it in a way to parlay himself into some big money in Europe. and Sabonis ended up going, I guess, to Spain, if I recall correctly.
Right.
So sometimes with a good agent or good recommendations, remember Morrison doesn't speak any English, so this might be a case to see if he can get his market value up on the international marketplace.
Well, UB, I don't know about you, but I mean, that's a major problem. A guy doesn't speak English. I mean, how do you communicate with him during timeouts, substitutions? How does he talk with guys on the floor? Remember Georgi Glushkov in Phoenix a few years ago. They tried to bring him over. He played about 20, 30 games. They had an interpreter on the bench, and it was a real problem. So if you go to a foreign player, you'd like for him to be able to communicate, because the language could be a major problem.
And we're just speculating about that. As a matter of fact, it's a very long shot. Let's see who Portland does decide to take. Here's David Stern.
With the 21st pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select James Robinson from the University of Alabama.
Here's a high school teammate of Lindsey Hunter, James Robinson, 6'1", 193 pounds, out of the University of Alabama. A talented 1 or 2 guard. He probably needs to learn a little bit more about the point.
Well, you're talking about an explosive player here. This guy is very, very quick, strong upper body, can change ends, and a lot of teams were interested in this young man. Now, right there, he has absolutely zero conscience. He will take the three going right or left, and that statement again, once again, that he's never seen a shot that he didn't like, right? It applies to this young guy. But he is blessed with athletic quickness.
This goes right into the Portland mold, though, of taking the best available athlete.
That's
I mean,
right.
You saw it last year. They take a Dave Johnson out of Syracuse, and this fits right in. Remember now, Drexler coming off major knee surgery. A lot of speculation on Terry Porter's future in Portland. So this is a very, very talented young player that, Hubie, I think a lot of places would have loved to take him higher. I don't think they could pull the trigger on the draft pick.
Yeah, I know. I like this. This is a nervy move, but also you're not saying that you're taking a second chance in regards to talent. The talent is there.
Right.
So Portland exhibiting probably some pretty good judgment with James Robinson from the University of Alabama, a team that had a very disappointing playoff this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They changed coaches. Wilkins went to Atlanta. Mike Fratello is back up at Cleveland. We'll see who they select when we return to the Palace in Auburn Hills. The Palace in Auburn Hills. Bob Neal along with Hubie Brown, Doug Collins, Craig Sager, Ernie Johnson's out on the West Coast with Don Nelson at the Golden State offices. We'll be hearing from them a little bit later. Right now, let's check on Cleveland's pick. Here's David Stern.
With the 22nd pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Chris Mills from the University of Arizona.
Chris Mills is with us here at the Palace. A small forward from Arizona. Remember the controversy when he went from Kentucky to Arizona. One of the better small forwards around, was Pac-10 Player of the Year. Not that great off the dribble, but knows how to get his shot. He can knock it down. Very smart player. Not a bad pick when you get down to number 21.
Well, I think that Cleveland has to be very happy to get a small forward at this position in the draft. You know, Chris Mills, many projected to be up as high as 11 to Detroit, so he has slid through this draft, and this is a guy who can score. The big thing again, Hubie, with him, though, has been his consistency through the year.
Right. Well, what you have here is Mike Sanders is an unrestricted free agent at Cleveland right now. You pick up, like we said, the Pac-10 Player of the Year, a guy who is accustomed to scoring over 20 points a game. He has the three-point range that they are looking for at that position because of the post-up ability of Doherty, Williams, and Nance.
Chris Mills from the University of Arizona, selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers and welcomed by David Stern, 6'6", 218 pounds. He can score 20.4 per game, 8 rebounds, and his three-point percentage pretty darn good at 48%.
And he has great range. He has NBA three-point range on his shot right now, and you're going to see some footage of him here. He was one of the top high school players in the country coming out. He went to Kentucky and then ended up at Arizona and had a very good senior year. Ended very disappointingly, though, when they were upset by Santa Clara in the NCAA tournament.
Well, the range factor is there, and that's what you need when you have good post-up people. Anytime that you play with guys like Brandon and Price, Mark Price, you're talking about the fact that there will be a lot of spot-up situations for you, and now it's up to you to earn your keep. Show them and play to your strength.
You know, we also should mention Craig Elo's an unrestricted free agent. They might be losing his range on his shot and the versatility of him being a small forward big guard. So a good pick for Cleveland.
So Mike Fratello, Hubie, and Doug say we give you about an 8 on that pick here. With one of your first moves as head coach, let's go to Craig Sager.
Well, a great pick for Cleveland, whether they would have had the 10th pick or the 20th pick. But I know you didn't visit Cleveland. You had frequent flyer mileage everywhere, but not Cleveland. You're checking out the roster. How do you feel about being a new Cavalier?
Oh, well, it feels good. You know, I was back there just wondering where am I going to go. And I'm just very happy that I can be a part of the Cavaliers. They have great players like Mark Price and Brad Doherty and those guys. I'm just happy to be there.
Doug mentioned the disappointing finishes at Arizona. You're the Pac-10 Player of the Year. You're on a great team at Arizona, but East Tennessee State, Santa Clara, they upset you. What effect did that have on you?
I don't know. You know, it was bad for me to go out that way my senior year. I definitely didn't want it to happen that way. I got in foul trouble towards the end and had to sit out a lot of the second half, but you know, maybe that could have hurt me, maybe it didn't. You know, I'm just going with God. He took me here, he brought me here to Cleveland, and I'll just have to go on from there and hopefully, you know, be in the NBA as long as I can.
Every summer you work out with Magic Johnson at your father's summer camp. What are you going to be working on this year?
Well, I'm just going to get out there, keep playing with those guys, and just try to increase my game as much as I can. You know, I'm going to definitely go out into the NBA and be ready and let these teams that pass me up know that, you know, they made a mistake. I will be there and I will be good and I'll do a good job.
Well, Cleveland was glad you're available. It's a great pick for him. Let's go back to Bob.
Thanks, Craig Sager. Chris Mills from the University of Arizona goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, here's a team that's already one of the best in the NBA coming up next, and we're talking about the Seattle Supersonics. Seattle, kind of an inconsistent team, and Hubie, you and I saw them, and so did you, Doug, in the Seattle-Houston series in the playoffs. Let's talk about Seattle and how they're going to get better.
Well, you can see that the winning is there. They emphasize the defense. They use multiple starting lineups, but they are not a big team anytime that Sean Kemp is on the bench. Also, you have the problem that Eddie Johnson and Ricky Pierce are getting up there in age, and they are two of your top 3 scorers.
Seattle, 55 wins. They finished 3rd in the West, and of course also couldn't put away the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals, so a team that wants to move to the next level. This is where it gets really tough.
Real tough, because when you look at their team, Bob, I mean, they've got, you know, a great three-point shooter in Dana Barris. You've talked about experience in Ricky Pierce and Eddie Johnson, and Nate McMillan, who comes off the bench, plays multiple positions. You've got a Sam Perkins, a Derek McKee, a Sean Kemp, a Michael Cage. I mean, this team is a team, to me, that just has to continue to mature and find that in a half-court game they can win, because when this team is forcing turnovers, trapping and getting in the open court, they're a devastating team. They just struggled when you made them play in the half court. But again, it's still a relatively young team if you took away Ricky Pierce and Eddie Johnson. I'm sure they want to get the best player they can get and add to that mix.
Well, there's still some pretty good big men available, and as you said, they could use a post-up player too as they try to get a little bit bigger, because they certainly are quick and athletic. So Seattle will be our next selection, and David Stern, the NBA commissioner, will have the announcement for us as he comes out to the stage here for the Seattle Supersonics. 55 wins. They're a little bit small, not real physical. Let's see what they're going to do. Here's David.
With the 23rd pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Ervin Johnson from the University of New Orleans.
That's Ervin Johnson, and, you know, one thing missing there, in addition to, of course, obviously a lot of the Magic talent, is there's no A in the Ervin, or he might be a richer man. Out of New Orleans, Ervin Johnson, 6'10 and a half, 230.
Well, you see the points and the rebounding and the high percentage that he shoots. But I think the reason why they're taking him, and first of all, he's 25 years of age. All right, he went to college late. He grew. He's a late developer, so you know that he has not played a great deal of basketball. He is an outstanding shot blocker and kind of fits their mold. Just looking at him right now, you say he fits right into the uniform at Seattle. He's built like that entire front line.
Athletic, the ability to run. You see his strengths and his weaknesses. Again, you can improve on the free throw shooting, but I think it's important, him going to this team, that he is an older rookie, being 25 years old. I think that will help him. Remember, Dennis Rodman was 25 when he was a rookie.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Dennis Rodman, in one college game this year, he had Dennis Rodman numbers against Lamar. He had 27 rebounds in one game, which was the most in Division I this year. So this is a man who can rebound. We'll be back to continue with the 1993 NBA Draft from the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan, right after this. Got a lot of folks. I would estimate 9,000 still remaining here after more than 2.5 hours of the 1993 NBA Draft at the Palace in Auburn Hills. 13,000 people were in here at the beginning. If you were watching this earlier, you heard the deafening roar when Chris Webber was made the #1 pick in the draft by Orlando. He was subsequently traded to Golden State for Anthony Hardaway, who goes to Orlando. So Webber is going to be out with another Hardaway, Tim Hardaway. Interesting feature here, the NBA and AT&T have provided a video telephone for these young men to be able to talk to their family or friends or someone around the United States after being drafted. So they hooked up Chris Webber with the other Hardaway, Tim Hardaway, out in Golden State. We thought you'd enjoy this exchange.
I understand. I heard what you told Nelly before I came down there. You left, and he said that you was ready to come down here and get him. You told him to get you. You ready to come down there and play?
Oh yeah. You know that.
Happy, man. I'm very happy.
I'm happy too, man. I never played with a great point guard before. You're the greatest.
Well, I'm not great yet, but you will make me great.
All right, thanks.
So Tim Hardaway with some advice and some encouragement for Chris Webber, who will be out there. Tim Hardaway is, if not great, near great. How about we'll go with near great? Certainly an outstanding point guard at Golden State. Now, coming up next, we have the Houston Rockets. Houston with 55 wins. They went 55-27. Were second in the West last year, and a team that had one of the best comebacks, I thought, in the NBA with all the problems they'd had the year before with Olajuwon, maybe not signing, etc. And I thought that their young coach, Rudy Tomjanovich, did a heck of a job, Hubie.
Oh, absolutely. He was right there in the Coach of the Year, losing out by only 1 vote. Olajuwon had a sensational season. Now, there's a big rumor that Moses Malone is going to be working out with them down there. His home has always been in Houston. That's an interesting situation for them because he's an unrestricted free agent. Now, here they have an ability now to get any one of a number of positions in the backup role. So with Winston Garland, who did such a terrific job for them on a second unit this year, an unrestricted free agent, it'll be interesting to see if they sign him, or they might look to back something here or someone up front.
Well, we can find out right now. Here's David Stern.
With the 24th pick in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Sam Cassell from Florida State University.
Well said, Hubie. You said they're looking for somebody to come in there and support in the case of a Winston Garland. Sam Cassell's 6'3", a good combo guard, 6'2.5", and had moments of really great play for Florida State, but also sometimes, this is my own opinion, as I saw the Seminoles a lot, played out of control a little bit, particularly when their point guard was hurt and he had to move into that role.
I agree with you, Bob. I felt that he was at his best when Charlie Ward was on the floor and he was put in a position to score and not really have to run the team. When he and Bobby Sura were out there, they had a tendency to get a little wild on the floor. So, I mean, this young man can play. I mean, he's got a lot of skill. He's got some good size on him. Tell you who he reminds me of a little bit when I watch him play. He reminds me of Sedale Threatt.
Yep, player played for you in Chicago.
Exactly, the way he plays and the way his body language on the floor and everything like that. I think this is a great opportunity for a Sam Cassell, because when you think about it, you've got Vernon Maxwell and Kenny Smith who are the starters,
right.
And when it doesn't go well for them, they've gone to the fourth quarter. They've gone with Scotty Brooks and with Winston Garland. So the opportunity's there for him to step in and be able to help this team.
But what you're talking about there, the competition is going to be there for him.
Yeah.
I mean, because those 4 guys are not going to go away, especially Brooks and Garland coming from down in the CBA. They understand what it is like to get on a great winning team and then make a heavy contribution. So he's going to be tested there. But he did lead the ACC in steals. You saw how many points he scored per game, so the scoring ability is there. He really can play either side, point or backup second guard.
So Sam Cassell, the latest selection. We're going to go out to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum now to Ernie Johnson Jr. and Don Nelson. EJ?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. I tell you what, if Don Nelson has any political aspirations, this is the day to announce that you're going to run. He's very popular here in the Bay Area today. They were chanting Nelly, Nelly when they pulled off the Chris Webber deal. How's it feel now? You've had some time to think about this. You've had some time to talk to Chris.
Oh, I'm elated. I'm still on cloud nine. I probably will continue to be. We're going to celebrate because, you know, it's just one of the best picks we ever had. Chris is going to be so happy here. He's got this beautiful team around him. And he's going to make everybody better.
You had him in the gym right now. What's the first thing you work on with him?
Well, he's going to fit in with our team because he doesn't shoot the free throw very well.
So he'll led the league in that department.
Yeah, he'll fit right in.
How about the rest of the draft now? You haven't been in the war room the whole time now since you made the big news in the first round. What's stuck out at you?
Well, A.C. Earl fallen, you know, as far as he did all the way to Boston. I was a little surprised about that. And I think Cleveland's really happy. They got Mills. Are you kidding me? Chris Mills, and they were looking for a two-guard. I think they're Wayne Embry. Congratulations.
Cleveland. How about the state of your team? Billy Owens, we understand, you know, had some problems earlier a couple of weeks ago, I guess, with the right knee. Now both knees giving him trouble. Is that a concern for you? Is he going to be ready?
No, not at all, because it's a cartilage and it's a minor operation. It's 4 to 6 weeks, and he's going to be back playing. It just cuts his summer out again, so he's lost 2 summers with us. But those things heal up, and he's going to be fine. We love him. He's going to be a great player.
Still unable to wipe the smile off the man's face. Still on cloud nine, Don Nelson, who pulled it off. Got Chris Webber. We told you about him chanting Nelly, Nelly, but the media, as you would know, brought him back to earth because when Chris Webber was on the phone, he said what he liked about the coach was that he was honest and sincere, and the room erupted in laughter. You were back there. You heard it. Let's go back to the Palace.
Okay, a little bit of a chuckle there. I like that, Ernie. Next up, the Chicago Bulls, the world champion Chicago Bulls. Now, they draft low in the draft, but remember, their signing of Tony Kukoc, the great player out of Europe, is imminent. And so it's as though the Bulls had a lottery choice. Let's talk first of all about this young man, Doug Collins.
Well, I mean, this is a guy who, when he plays with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, is going to just fit in so nicely because he has great passing skills. Look at him take the ball to the basket. He can finish. He's got range on his shot. He thinks pass first. And it's going to be a great position for him because he can go in and he can play in a backup role and learn. And then when it's time for him to be a starter, he can do that. Think about the Bulls if they ever want to go small with B.J. Armstrong, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and Tony Kukoc on the floor. I really believe that they have a better chance, or not a better chance. I think that they have a great chance next year to be better than they were this year.
For Pete, I'm going to, I think, try to get a trademark on that. And
to the quad squad now, Bob. You got a
quad squad. Is that your T-shirt?
No, I can't take credit for that.
I'm going with 4 Pete. I know it's not that good, but it's the best I come up with. You saw Kukoc a great deal. I know in various places around the world. Your impression of how quickly he could fit into Chicago?
Well, I think his main asset is that he can handle a basketball and be the middleman in the break. He's so good off the dribble, and he will be one of the best passers. He's going to really shock a lot of people at how well he'll deliver the ball. He'll deliver it where you can do something with it immediately.
Now, number 25 is the pick here. Remember, they've already got Kukoc about to sign him. Let's see who the selection in the draft is for Chicago.
With the 25th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Chicago Bulls select Corey Blunt from the University of Cincinnati.
So Corey Blunt, he just played 21 this year because of some ineligibility at the University of Cincinnati. He is a big player at 6'10" and 6'9 and a half, 6'10", and Chicago wanted to look for someone with some size because of the aging Bill Cartwright. So as we take a look at him, Doug Collins, your opinion on this pick?
Well, he's a rebounder, really not a scorer, Bob. He's a rebounder, can block some shots. And you think about, you've got Will Perdue out there who's a restricted free agent. You have Scotty Williams who's a restricted free agent. You've talked about Cartwright. You've talked about now Stacey King. And this is a frontline player. And now they've added Tony Kukoc, who can give you a perimeter guy. They give a Corey Blunt, who can be an inside guy for you. And he's an athletic guy, and that fits into what Chicago wants to do. They're a very, very athletic team that likes to trap and pressure you defensively. They like someone back there who can block shots, so if you get by the front line of their defense, you got someone to erase your mistakes.
Could also be tough for this guy to make the Chicago team, depending on a lot of the things that happen with free agents and
Yeah,
such.
but there are an awful lot of unrestricted free agents on that ball club,
Right.
you know. So, but this is, to me, an excellent move. They are a defensive team first. I know that sounds crazy, but they really
Absolutely.
are. And they added another shot blocker coming from a proven college defensive program. At Cincinnati, they get after you.
In just a moment, we'll return to the Palace at Auburn Hills as we continue with the draft of 1993. The Orlando Magic, more problems. Now they're going to have another player they have to try to sign. They'll be up next. Last year's draft marked the arrival of the most heralded big man to enter the league in years, LSU All-American center Shaquille O'Neal.
With the first pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal from Louisiana State University.
The Shaq had an immediate impact on the NBA, wrecking havoc league-wide with his physical style of play, while averaging 23 points and 13 rebounds on his way to being named Rookie of the Year. This is the AT&T Draft Flashback. Shaquille O'Neal, last year's #1 pick, and this year he will get to play, if they can sign him, Anthony Hardaway at the point guard. What a 1-2 combination that is going to be in Orlando. Okay, gentlemen, Doug and Hubie, let's take a look at some of the players who are left as Orlando is about to pick for the second time in the draft.
Well, a couple things. First of all, with Anthony Hardaway coming in, if he is going to be their starting point guard, that means they're going to probably have to move Scott Skiles. If so, they go to a backup point guard. If they go to a rookie, maybe a Nick Van Exel, there's been some talk they might make a trade and go to a veteran point guard to back up an Anthony Hardaway. If you have to move a Scott Skiles, they could go to a big guy and shore up their front line. We know their power positions. There's a Malcolm Mackey out there who could be a good one. So there's a lot of different ways. First, they're going to have a tough time signing whoever this pick is. This is 2 #1s now.
No question about it. Let's go to David Stern.
With the 26th pick in the 1993 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Gert Hamink from Louisiana State University.
How about that? Gert Hammock backed up the Shaq at LSU, and now he's going to back the Shaq again.
Well, they can either keep him. Now, you can see he had 15 points, 10 rebounds. He did an excellent job at LSU. 6'11", 260. Now, or they might work on an agreement with him where he plays overseas for a year while they work out things. Also, Tolbert right now is an unrestricted free agent at the big forward position, so this would give them another good young body for down inside. So there are a number of ways that they could go with this pick, but I like the pick. This guy, he's got an upside on him because he's got a lot of potential.
Or they could even trade the pick to someone who wants him for that veteran guard we talked about. A lot of different directions you could go, but I think they like the flexibility of if they want to send him to Europe, maybe he could go over there and play and come back maybe a year later. So there's a lot of different ways they can. When I talked to Matt Gukas today, he had mentioned his name, and I think that there's a lot of things to take into consideration with this young guy.
Well, if he does it again, it'll be a familiar role as Gert Hammock, who was the leading rebounder in the SEC last year, backed up Shaquille O'Neal down at LSU. Now, if he is signed and goes to Orlando, he'll be backing the Shaq again. I can see those I back the Shaq T-shirts. Everybody's got a marketing idea. We're going to have to work on some of those for next year's draft. As we recap the picks number 1 through 26 for you in the draft, we'll remind you we're at the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan for the 1993 NBA draft. And we'll be continuing with this draft through the second round, by the way, as we have only a couple of more picks here. One more pick in the first round. Only 2 minutes between the selections in the second round. And there are there is one team, the New York Knicks, who don't have a pick tonight. The Knicks did not have a pick in round 1 or round 2. The Phoenix Suns, the runners-up to the Chicago Bulls, will be up next. Let's talk a little bit about the Phoenix Suns. Can they get real help for their team at this pick?
Listen, this is a team that drafts well. They really do an excellent job at the bottom of the first round or into the second round. And when you think of them at the second round, you think Sabelis, Dumas, Hornacek, and they even had Andrew Lang a couple of years ago. And now at Philadelphia, he's an unrestricted free agent. Now they're talking about possibly bringing him back to Phoenix. They do an outstanding job at shoring up places, but most of all, finding athletes and gambling on guys.
So Phoenix 62 wins, most in the NBA last year.
Well, a lot of question is, are they going to make that move for Dennis Rodman? They talked about making it earlier right before trade deadline. They didn't do it because Dumas was part of the package. They did not want to give him up. But if you look at their team, I mean, you've got Kevin Johnson, and you've got Charles Barkley, and you've got Dumas and Sabalas. Remember now, they've got a slot now because of Tom Chambers leaving, so they've got about a $2 million. They can sign a free agent. Imagine if they had Chris Dudley or an AC Green.
That's right.
And in this pick, I mean, this is a team that could get much better.
I want to jump ahead into something right here, and that's looking to next year. You know, with Chicago probably signing Kukoc, they're still my favorite to repeat as NBA champions. Let's get out of the East all of a sudden and go out it. With one more player, is Phoenix good enough? Was the NBA Finals series that close in your view?
Yeah, I thought it was very close. I thought that Chicago jumped on them in game one, sort of shell-shocked them in the first quarter when they got them down 15. Other than that, every game was very well contested. Game two, Ainge gets a three-point shot blocked by Scottie Pippen. They're up 4 with a minute to go and have the ball in game 6. Could have put it to game 7. You had the triple overtime. You had the game 5 where Kevin Johnson, the ball slips out of his hands. They're down 2 with the basketball. It was a very well contested series. So
I've never seen anybody remember details of basketball games as clearly as Doug Collins, with the possible exception of maybe Hubie Brown.
Let's go back to the playoffs. Hey, round 1, they almost went home with L.A.
Right. Okay.
Round 2, the San Antonio series goes 6. Round 3, they barely escaped versus Seattle. Now you throw a healthy Golden State who won like 55-plus games a year ago, and now you add a healthy team with Weber. Come on. The West is going to be extremely competitive.
And it's time, because the East has been dominating, no question about it. So the West needs to get a little better.
Well, and you look, Chicago's still the cream of the crop. You've got New York, who's still going to be a little notch until they shore up a couple positions to where they can beat a Chicago with their shooting. Cleveland, they still have not shown the ability to beat Chicago. Charlotte is going to be better, but Boston has lost McHale. They're going to be sliding. Right. So, I mean, Chicago still is the best team in the East right now with these additions that they've made. And like Hubie said, the West is going to be, wide open again with Golden State doing what they've done tonight.
Well, let's find out who the answer to the trivia question, who was the last pick in the first round of the draft of 1993. Here's David Stern's announcement.
With the 27th and final pick in the first round of the 1993 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Malcolm Mackey from Georgia Tech.
The all-time leading rebounder in Georgia Tech history, which says something. And this is the 5th year in a row that Georgia Tech has had a first-round draft choice, which speaks pretty highly of the quality of players Bobby Cremins has put into the program at Georgia Tech.
Well, I like this guy's talent because he has a big upside. I don't think that he has played to his fullest potential night in and night out, but he does possess great athletic tools. MVP player at Georgia Tech this year, and has also made the all-tournament team down there in Phoenix at the Combine. He has the body, he's got NBA size, and look at that weight, 254. Not a bad specimen at number 27.
I think what you talked about, though, is his focus. That he's had a tendency to play and get himself jacked up for the Dukes and the North Carolinas, and then, have his downsides against the lesser teams. And let's face it, again, in the NBA, the guys he's going to be playing against, you've got to do it every night.
Yeah, but then again, they do have some people down there who prod you a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Phoenix.
Absolutely.
I got bad news for you, Malcolm. The coach doesn't want to see you, but Charles does. That may inspire Malcolm Mackey, the final pick in the first round of the draft of 1993. We'll be back with round 2 in just a moment. This program is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the NBA solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, or accounts of this program without the express written consent from the NBA is prohibited. A nice reading of the disclaimer there. The Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan, ready to begin the second round of the 1993 NBA Draft. Let's do a quick recap of the first round. Chris Webber, the first man to go, traded to Golden State. Sean Bradley, the 7'6" BYU youngster, goes to Philadelphia. Anthony Hardaway traded to Orlando. Mashburn, and then Isaiah Ryder, who were the picks 1 through 5. As we recap the first round, it was then Chaney, Hurley, Baker, Rogers, and Hunter in picks 6 through 10. Other first-round picks: Allen Houston, George Lynch went to the Los Angeles Lakers. Terry DeHare, Scott Haskin, and Doug Edwards to the Atlanta Hawks. Rex Walters to the New Jersey Nets. Hopefully will help try to replace Drazen Petrovic there. A.C. Earl to the Boston Celtics. Very happy young man to be joining the Celtics, who are looking for big help up front. And a Luther Wright at 313 pounds went to Utah at pick number 18. James Robinson, the point guard from Alabama, to Portland. Chris Mills out of Arizona to Cleveland Cavaliers. Irvin Johnson, that's the other Irvin Johnson, went to the Seattle Supersonics, a big player to play up front for Seattle, got them a little tougher inside. Sam Cassell from Florida State to Houston, and Corey Blunt to the Chicago Bulls. Gert Hammock went to Orlando. He was the backup for Shaquille O'Neal at LSU, and now he had the same opportunity down in Orlando. And Malcolm Mackey out of Georgia Tech, the final pick of the first round of the draft, went to the Phoenix Suns. And now we're ready for round two. And in round two, by the way, it's only 2 minutes per pick. So we'll be whisking through this for you. There are 27 players to be picked, only 2 minutes between selections, and these are important selections too. All these players won't be able to make a team, but some of them could be stars. In a minute, we'll show you how some of those second-round picks have become NBA All-Stars. And now, to make these announcements, here is Rod Thorne.
With the first pick in the second round, the 28th pick overall, Dallas selects Lucius Harris of Long Beach State. Minnesota will select number 29.
Lucius Harris, the all-time leading scorer in Big West history. This man can put it down.
No, I like him. I think this is an excellent pick for them. Nick Van Exel and Lucius Harris were the only two guys who did not go on that first round that came in as highly publicized guards. Now, he is a guy that can run. You know that he has the range. He can also post up for you. I think it's an excellent pick for Dallas.
I'll tell you who he reminds me. He reminds me a little bit of Byron Scott. I coached Byron at Arizona State, and he has that same kind of body and ability to extend on his shot, shoot the ball to range, and has good size.
So, you know, you're thinking Jimmy Jackson at the starting two guard. Lucius Harris comes in here right now. He's really got a good opportunity to step in and get in competition with some of these other young people. Good choice, though.
Look back to remind everybody that the first pick was Jamal Mashburn. So you've got the inside-out forward in Jamal Mashburn, who can rebound and also score from the outside. How much better can Dallas get with those two players? Just a quick comment.
Well, look, who knows what's going to happen between now and the start of the season in regards to unrestricted free agency. And we still said that earlier at the top, Ray Tarpley is still a major question mark for him. This guy could come into the picture, and if he did, we're talking about if he comes in shape and he adheres to all of the rules of the NBA, you're talking about a major contributor, rebounding, shot blocking, and low post scoring. How about if you started Rooks, and Mashburn up front? You came with Jimmy Jackson and Harper in the backcourt. I don't think you're that bad.
Not a bad basketball team. Probably more than 11 wins that they got last year. Now let's go back to Rod Thorne for the second pick in the second round.
The Minnesota Timberwolves with pick number 29, the second pick in the second round, select Sharon Mills, Virginia Commonwealth. Washington will pick next.
So Sharon Mills, a 6'8", 217 power forward from Virginia Commonwealth. We were talking to Marty Blake about him on the way to the arena. We're going to come back and talk about Sharon Mills and continue with our coverage of the second round. But right now, let's take timeout. With the 29th pick, as you see the Bullets about to come up at 30, with the 29th pick, Sharon Mills went to Minnesota. So let's talk a little bit once again about Sharon Mills, the power forward. What are your thoughts about him and whether he can be a help?
Well, you know, at Virginia at Commonwealth, you know, he is 6'9". He can play the small forward position for you. If he's going to play big forward there, he must bulk up. But he does have inside scoring skills. So I think that, you know, once again, they're trying to get bigger with some guys up there that can score for you.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Sonny Smith is the coach there, and he was at Auburn. He had the Charles Barkleys and the Chuck Person. So this guy has been well coached by guys who've gone into the NBA and had pretty darn good careers.
Let's go to Rod Thorne.
The Washington Bullets select from Romania, George Morisan. George does not speak English. He is here with us this evening, but I think he would understand the international applause. Thank you.
George Morrison, I understand is how he pronounces his name, from Romania, played in France this year He is. You don't see anybody with him there. That's because he's 7'7". Does not speak English. And remember, the Washington Bullets took another big player. Previously, the tallest player selected in the draft was Manute Bol. Now, George Morrison from Romania, who played last year in France. So he's having an enjoyable moment here. This is a player, Doug and Hubie, that has some international level basketball skills.
Yeah, he does. He's not a guy that runs very well, but supposedly he has some NBA skills around the basket. And, you know, this will be a nice thrill for this young guy. A nice hand. I think this is really nice that the crowd acknowledges him and his ability to be drafted here tonight.
See, he can score. They say he has a very nice touch around the basket. Now, Sabonis, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, big man to ever play in Europe. All right, he supposedly played him and did a good job against him. Now, we're not talking about the Sabonis back in the great years. We're talking about at this level now. You're saying 7-7. He led his team, all right, to the first place final. So you know that he does possess some talent here.
I mean, did you see that picture of David Stern is about 5'9" or 5'10". Let's take a look at the video. You'll notice he does not move well, but has some offensive plays. Here's defense first.
Now that's Sabonis right there. Now remember, Sabonis is over 7 feet. Now see the young man, now that's what we said. He has some offensive skill here right now. Now you saw the baby hook. You also saw a little turnaround jumper. I don't know, he's moving.
I guess when you're that big, you don't have to move that fast, right?
Did we increase the speed there or what? What did we do? I mean, he didn't look that bad moving.
Strength and stamina, a question mark. And, of course, his inability, you spoke of this earlier, to not speak English, he speaks no English at all, is a real problem for him and the team. There have been other experiences with it in the NBA.
Well, I think that, you know, if he has any dreams of coming to Washington, playing in the NBA, if he is going to go back and play in Europe, that the next few years he needs to really work hard to where he can communicate so that you can be coached and you can talk on the bench both to your teammates and get the instruction from your coach.
George A. Morrison does have an interpreter with him, and he's going to talk to Craig Sager right now.
Well, Bob, the interpreter is Susan Dinas. And Susan, first of all, the question, he's the first Romanian player ever drafted in the NBA. What does it mean to him and also to his country?
Ești primul din România ca să fii pentru asociația aceasta. Ce înseamnă pentru tine și pentru țara ta?
Pentru mine e o enormă bucurie.
For me it is an enormous joy to be here.
Și pentru țară sunt sigur că foarte mulți se uită la televizor.
And for my country, I'm sure there are many watching television right now.
De mâine o să fie mai mulți copii pe stradă care vor bate mingea.
I believe that starting tomorrow, many more children on the street will be bouncing balls.
Well, Arvydas Sabonis 7 years ago used it for leverage to get more money in Europe. Does he intend to play in the NBA?
I didn't hear the first part.
Does he want to play in the NBA or will he go back to Europe?
Ai vrea să joci în asociația aceasta sau vrei să mergi înapoi în Europa?
Eu de-aia am venit aici ca să...
I have come to this country with great hope to play in this association.
You know any English at all?
Cunoști engleză?
I love you, this game.
I love this game. All right, George Morrison, I hope the Washington Bullets love you. Thanks a lot for being with us. I love this game.
Oh, you see, George Morrison's wife who is here. And how about it? I love this game. That's enough. That's all you need. Let's go to Rod Thorne now for the Sacramento pick.
With the 31st pick, Sacramento selects Evers Burns, University of Maryland. Philadelphia will select number 32.
Evers Burns rejoins Walt Williams, his former Maryland teammate out there in Sacramento.
This guy had a terrific season in Portsmouth and in Phoenix, making the first team all-tournament. You see 6'8", 260. He outworked all of the front court people. Now he is going to give them another guy with some bulk, and they need that at Sacramento. They need somebody at that strong forward position. to back up Tisdale, and everyone speaks so highly of this young man. Excellent choice for Sacramento.
Well, I think the one thing is they really love the way he worked so hard, QB, to come into these camps and to play very, very well, and how appreciative he was to get that opportunity. He is working on getting his weight down, getting in better shape, and I think it showed in his play, as you talked about, in the postseason. Maryland was a little bit lacking in talent, and so he did not have the players around him, so the team did not have a great year. But this young man, I think this is a very good pick for them at Sacramento. They get 2 ACC players. Now you get Bobby Hurley, Evers Burns. You've got Walt Williams out there. So they're starting to build, I guess, from the ACC out.
I like the way you put that. Bobby Hurley went to Sacramento, and now Evers Burns. And coming up next, we have Philadelphia. Remember, Philadelphia selected Sean Bradley at the number 2 pick, and we'll also have pick number 32, the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's talk just a moment, while we have a moment, there's about 40 seconds before this pick will be made, about Philadelphia and Sean Bradley and how he fits into that team. We didn't have a lot of time to do that when he was selected earlier.
No, I like what they're trying to do there. Now, you have Witherspoon at that big forward position, and he's a man. All right, he's going to get nothing but better. Then you have Sean Bradley at the center position, and then they have the great guards on the perimeter, like Doug said. So all you have to do now is just keep adding young guys who are coachable and who really want to work as hard as the coach is asking you within his philosophy of play.
All right, let's find out who Philadelphia picks. Here's Rod Thorne.
With the 32nd selection in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Alphonso Ford, Mississippi Valley State. Dallas will select number 33.
Alphonso Ford of Mississippi Valley State is announced by Rod Thorne, and we're going to take a commercial break here from the Palace on Auburn Hills. We'll come back and talk about Mr. Ford and his introduction into the city of brotherly love.